Welcome to Evilive, the live media commentary show that answers the question, can you truly shame the devil by telling the truth? And this show is a little too real with that statement in mind. Subscribe if you're new to the channel, because today we're reviewing A24's Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. That's right. The movie's so nice they named it 3 times. Or they needed something to draw you in, and so they gave it a couple extra names. Bodies, bodies, bodies. All right, so my initial thoughts about this film is it aimed higher than it was capable of going in order to deliver less than it even promised to deliver. And I know some people are going to say, well, this is brilliant satire. This is a black comedy that connects with a modern sensibility. And all that's bullshit. This was the promise of all of that, but that's all. Just a promise. It ended up being empty and hollow, so let's get into it. All right, this was directed by Halina Reijn. This is her English directorial debut. The screenplay was by Sarah Delap, and the story was by Kristen Rupenian, though what came on screen was nothing that was originally scripted out. And it tried so hard to have some sort of modern social commentary, but again, it all fell ultimately flat, but I'll explain what I mean here in just a second. Cinematography was by Jasper Wolf, which was pretty good. Pretty good. The only reason really why I'm reviewing this entire thing is because I love A24 films. I think they put out horror that is cerebral, that takes consideration and thought process. And in this particular case, I feel like they just threw something out in order to try to get some, I don't know, recoup the money, their investment. But again, it just fell flat for me. The music was by Disaster Piece, which is fitting. And it was released August 5th originally. So the synopsis is this. This is the log line. When a group of rich 20-somethings plan a hurricane party at a remote family mansion, a party game turns deadly in this fresh and funny look at backstabbing fake friends and one party gone very, very wrong. This would have had legs if there was an actual killer. Then all of that commentary would have landed even more. And again, people who really love this film are going to say, but that's why it's so great, is because, again, this is a spoiler review, so if you don't want to know anything about the actual film itself, stop watching now. But if you want to just dive into the spoilery plot lines, let's get into it. No one is the actual intentional murderer. Like, every death in this is either by accident or put in a position to be an accidental death because of the situation. So there is no like ghost face or the Shape going around murdering people. This is all just a bunch of idiots killing themselves off because they're idiots. Now there's let me give you the cast here. Amandla Stenberg as Sophia, Maria Bakalova as B, Myha'la Herrold as Jordan, Chase Sui Wonders as Emma, Rachel Sennott as Alice, Lee Pace as Greg, Pete Davidson as David, Connor O'Malley as Max. Pete Davidson's character has this moment where he's talking to one of the girls that he has sex with, but they're not really together. And he said that, all you ever do is consume the internet. Any thought that's in your head is given to you, is implanted there by other people. There's actually nothing in your head at all. And that's really what this film is. There's nothing to this film. There's no thought put into this film. This script that came on screen is something that they wanted to make commentary about modern social structures and how most people don't really even have original thoughts of their own, but just parrot back ideas that are thrown at them in social media and whatever echo chamber they happen to exist in online socially. But the film itself is just as hollow as all that. And so while it's trying to make a comment about, the teenagers of today or maybe the social commentary of today, it ends up just proving that there's nothing there in the film by proving that there's nothing there in the heads of these characters in the film. And it ends up being very, very disappointing as a audience viewer. I went into this expecting humor, expecting dark comedy. And while there are some moments that are humorous, there's nothing outright funny about this film. And there's certainly nothing, like, honestly thought-provoking at all here. And you don't normally go into horror expecting thought-provoking ideas to come on screen. But what you do find in many horror film cases is that there is a commentary underneath the surface, not on top of it, that forces you to consider the actions of the characters, or maybe the actions of the bad guy. In this particular case, it just makes you realize that they're mocking the very audience that would then go to watch this type of a film and find something significant in it, because there's nothing there. That they're making fun of people who think that there's something actually there. And, in a world where we had Stephen Colbert, mocking the right with his over-the-top, sort of ridiculous news commentary, a decade ago, maybe this would have landed a little bit better if it made more fun or hit a little harder on that social commentary statement piece, which is really supposed to be the heart of this film. But again, instead of giving us anything meaningful or meaty or reflective, it ends up being a hollow and empty feeling. And the ending line really says everything there is about this film. I have reception with her cell phone as she's holding up her cell phone. She has her bars. That's all that you could say about this film, is that you wanted to look at your phone to see if you had reception so that you could find something else to watch instead of this film. It ended up going a lot longer than it probably should have. And because there's no actual bad guy, because there's no meaningful purpose behind any of these deaths, you can't help but feel stupid for having watched it. It is very disappointing, especially from a studio like A24. So the name of the movie and the game played in the movie are based on a commonly played improv game called Body Body, or Murder in the Dark, where players run around in a dark room while the murderer kills players by tapping them, hoping to get away with killing the entire group. And then the group, after each killing is supposed to turn the light, guess who it was. If they get it right, then they win. If they don't, then they send someone off to be killed, and then they turn off the lights and go through the whole process again while the murderer keeps murdering if he or she wasn't chosen. That's the premise, and the promise behind that would be that one of these teenagers turns into a murderer. And what you see on screen is this bumbling, accidental death that follows after having stopped playing this game altogether. After Pete Davidson's character David ends up accidentally killing himself, which you don't find out until the very end. Everyone thinks that there's a murder on the loose, and they start to distrust each other. Their friendships start to fragment and shatter, and they start calling each other out about their social behavior, about their personal issues with each other, the lies and the backstabbings and the secrets that all friend groups have. But because this is a hyper-focused group of rich kids in today's modern social climate, they're using a lot of, shitty woke buzzwords. And what ends up being is not even an overt mocking of woke culture, which would have been very funny and entertaining. But instead, it was literally just accidental murders by a bunch of idiots that you feel no real care for. You don't feel any love for any of these people who are dying off. And the point of a horror film landing with an audience is that they connect somehow with these people. And if anyone connects with these characters, it just shows how stupid those people are, because these characters are empty and hollow and there's nothing, no substance to them. And it's just sort of heightened on top of that because, that's literally how they're presented is stupid and nothing and empty and hollow. Rather than trying to find some sort of substance within themselves, at least in the context of the film. They don't even do that. The script was originally written by Kristen Ropian of Cat Person fame and bears little resemblance to the finished product. Only a few of the names are the same. It takes place during a snowstorm rather than a hurricane. It has little to do with the way of social satire and is much closer to a traditional slasher movie, with the rough Alice analog being the killer. The script was heavily rewritten by Sarah DeLapp and Rupenian, getting a story credit, which is, if I watched that film, I probably would have enjoyed it a lot more than I enjoyed this film. They really, this whole thing focuses heavy on this group of friends sort of interfucking each other, which, is pretty par for the course for any group of friends that's, lived together or grown up together for any length of time, as these characters supposedly did. They all go to David's house for this hurricane party, and David ends up being the first one gone. One of the friends brought this boyfriend who, there's rumors that he was an army vet in Afghanistan, but in truth, he was just a veterinarian, and he seemed older than everyone else. And when they tried to confront him, thinking that he was the murderer who murdered David, this is Lee Pace's Greg, I believe. He ends up like trying to fight them off, and they keep attacking him and actually like intentionally murder him. And then we start to see the friendships really start to unravel amongst the surviving friends, and accidental deaths are the only way people continue to die, but they do continue to die because of that, because they're just purely stupid as characters. And at the very end, there's a couple that was together. I believe it was B and Sophie, that remain alive at the very end. And even then, they don't trust each other because, Sophie supposedly cheated on this girl that she was with one of her other friends that also died. And so it just ends up feeling really hollow and nothing, So it ends up being a 5-person body count. David slices his own throat accidentally. Greg is beaten in the head with a weight by B. Emma brutally falls down the stairs, bashing open her head. Alice is shot in the neck by Jordan in a scuffle for the gun. Jordan is pushed over the railing into tons of glass bottles by B. And that's all the deaths. Only one of them was a murder, and even then, it was because they thought he was the murderer, and so they believed it was in self-defense, even though it wasn't actually anything. Very disappointing film. There's some really entertaining lights off, chasing after each other scenes, and there are moments when you thought, oh yes, there is in fact one of them is a murderer, because she goes and gets a gun that was in the house, that was the homeowners in the house, but it ends up she just was trying to protect herself. It wasn't her being a murderer at all, even though none of these people are honest actors. None of these people are truthful and caring and loving. They're all deceitful. They're all hollow. They're all backstabbing each other throughout the entire history of their friendships. And it ends up being really, really disappointing. I was really looking forward to this film. I thought it was going to be this brilliant commentary and really, really funny. And, it ended up just being two douchebag dude bros, in a couple of rows behind us that were laughing at a couple spots. And it was just me and my family sitting there going, huh, okay. There's a chuckle here or there. And that was kind of it. I mean, there was, it was very strange and very hollow. I'm a huge fan of horror. I love slasher films. I cut my teeth on Nightmare on Elm Street and the original Halloween, and that's kind of where my sensibilities lie. So when you run across a film like this, which is a promise of humor and satire, and that doesn't deliver, you can't help but question A24's motives in this entirely. If this film is just supposed to make fun of our current culture, the current woke culture, and the really stupid kids that exist nowadays, well, then it successfully did that, but it didn't do it in an entertaining or insightful way. And so I can't really get behind that. I don't even like the idea of calling out woke culture, because I don't personally think it is that big of a deal. I don't think it's that big of a threat to any other culture that exists. But that is what is seemingly being called out in this film, and it just doesn't land in any possible way at all. So if going down to like favorite parts of this film, it would be a struggle for me to call one out. I think the imagery of driving to the home, David's home, is probably the most beautiful, and that's probably what I like most. But again, that's at the very, very first 5 minutes of the film, and then it's all contained within this really, beautiful mansion. Pardon me. Uh, and as soon as you get there, you think there's going to be this great little party, and there's a lot of drugs, and there's a lot of alcohol, but it's just not fun. It's just not funny, and it's just not entertaining. My least favorite part is in fact that there's no murderer. The fact that it's all accidental and stupid. Like, I don't know. It's like watching the Darwin Awards. I mean, sure, the first one might be funny, but after that, you're just like, okay, can we get to something substantive? Like anything? Give me some reason to continue watching this. And so honestly, when I think about a rating about this film, I can't go more than 2 evil eyes, out of 5, 2 out of 5. There is enough there as far as the visual take of the film, that sort of hunting around and chasing and running and hiding in the dark from supposed murderers, that makes it interesting for the first half of the film. And there are some beautiful shots of the first half of the film. But the last half lets down even the first half that you were enjoying, leaving you wanting something more substantive. And if you were looking for some sort of commentary or some sort of tongue-in-cheek film, I would highly recommend you see Scream 5 rather than this. Because it just doesn't land. And A24 has other amazing films under its belt. So if you just want to watch a really good, well-crafted film, look at A24's catalog and find something else. This is definitely not worth your money, and it's not worth your time. So let me know what you thought. Thank you all so much for tuning into this spoiler review of Bodies, Bodies, Bodies from A24. My name, this is Evilive, and of course, evil spelled backwards is live. So get out there and live.